Welcome back, I'm Sonia. Susie sighed, giving Andrea's shoulders a comforting squeeze. You have to think about what you want in the long run, Andrea. Raj might be willing to fight for you, but what does that mean for your life? You'd have to navigate a whole different world, with all its rules and expectations. And you'd be doing it as the other woman who broke up a royal engagement. Are you sure that's what you want? Andrea lifted her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I don't want to be the reason for anyone's pain, Susie. But I also can't ignore how I feel. Raj said he wants to be with me, but he didn't ask me what I wanted. And the truth is, I'm not sure if I'm strong enough to go through all this. Susie looked at her friend, understanding the depth of her turmoil. Andrea, whatever you decide, I'll support you. But you need to be clear with Raj about your doubts. He needs to know that you're not just going to jump into this without thinking about the consequences. Andrea nodded, wiping away a stray tear. You're right. I need to talk to him, to make sure he understands where I stand. I can't just be swept up in this fairy tale without considering the reality. But I'm scared, Susie. I'm scared of what I'll feel if I walk away, and I'm scared of what will happen if I stay. Susie leaned her head against Andrea's, offering silent support. You're one of the strongest people I know, Andrea. Whatever you decide, you'll find a way through it. Just make sure it's your decision, not Raj's, not his family's, yours. Andrea took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing thoughts. I need to talk to him, to be honest about my fears and my doubts. But first, I need to figure out what I really want. Susie nodded in agreement. Take your time, Andrea. Don't rush into anything just because of what he says or does. This is your life, your future. Make sure it's what you want. Andrea gave a small, grateful smile. Thanks, Susie. I'm lucky to have you here with me. Always, Susie replied with a warm smile. Now, what's the plan? Are you going to call him? Andrea nodded. Yeah, I think I need to see him. I need to talk to him face to face. Just as Andrea was about to call Raj, the phone in her room rang, startling her out of her thoughts. She exchanged a quick glance with Susie before picking up the receiver. Hello, Andrea said, her voice tentative. Miss Andrea, the receptionist's polite voice came through the line. Prince Raj is downstairs. He's asked if you could join him. Andrea's heart skipped a beat. Oh, thank you. I'll be right down. She hung up the phone and turned to Susie, her emotions swirling in a chaotic mix of anticipation and anxiety. Raj is downstairs, she said, her voice trembling slightly. He wants to see me. Susie raised an eyebrow, her concern evident. Are you ready for this, Andrea? You were just talking about needing more time to think. Andrea took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I don't know if I'm ready, but I need to hear what he has to say. He's asked for both of us to come. Susie nodded, her expression softening. All right, let's go then. But remember, you don't have to make any decisions tonight. With that, they left the room and headed downstairs. As they stepped into the lobby, Andrea spotted Raj waiting by the entrance, his posture tense but his expression softened by the sight of her. He smiled as they approached, but there was a seriousness in his eyes that Andrea couldn't ignore. Hi, Raj greeted them, his voice warm but tinged with an undercurrent of urgency. Hi, Andrea replied, her heart still racing. The receptionist said you wanted to see me. Yes, Raj nodded, glancing briefly at Susie before continuing. I know it's late, but I need to talk to you, Andrea. There's a lot I need to explain, and I'd feel better if we could do it somewhere private. I'd like you both to come to my apartment. We can talk there without any interruptions. Andrea hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with possibilities, but something in Raj's demeanor told her that this conversation was important, perhaps even life-changing. She looked at Susie, who gave her an encouraging nod. Okay, Andrea agreed, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. Let's go. Raj smiled, a mixture of relief and anticipation on his face. He led them outside, where a sleek car was waiting. As they got in, Raj pulled out his phone and called Onik. Onik, it's Raj. We're on our way back to the apartment. Could you please prepare something for us? Maybe a few snacks, something delicious, Raj said, his voice calm but with an edge of urgency. Onik's response was muffled, but Andrea could hear the loyalty in his tone. Raj ended the call and turned his attention back to the road ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. The ride to Raj's apartment was mostly silent, with only the hum of the car engine filling the space. Andrea's mind was a whirl of thoughts. What was he going to tell her? What could possibly justify everything that had happened? She glanced at Susie, who gave her a reassuring smile, as if to remind her that she wasn't alone in this. When they arrived at the apartment, Onik greeted them at the door, his usual composed demeanor masking whatever thoughts he might have had about the situation. He ushered them into the living room, where a spread of snacks and drinks awaited on a low table. The room was elegantly decorated, exuding the understated luxury that came with Raj's status, but Andrea barely noticed the surroundings. Her focus was entirely on Raj. Raj gestured for them to sit, and once they were settled, he took a seat across from Andrea, his expression earnest and intense. Onik quietly excused himself, leaving them alone. "Thank you for coming," Raj began, his voice sincere. "I know you must have a lot of questions, Andrea, and I want to be completely honest with you." Andrea nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "I do, Raj. I don't even know where to start." Raj took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want to tell you everything that's happened since the last time we spoke. It's been complicated, to say the least. But first, I need you to know that my engagement is officially over." Andrea's eyes widened in surprise. "What? How? When did this happen?" Raj leaned forward, his hands clasped together as he spoke. "After our dinner, I had a long talk with Indara, my fiancé, or rather, my former fiancé. We both realized that neither of us wanted this marriage, and we decided to speak to our families. It wasn't easy, there was a lot of resistance, a lot of hurt, but we managed to make them understand that we couldn't go through with it." He paused, allowing Andrea to absorb the information. "We had another meeting with our families a couple of days ago. It was tense, to say the least. But in the end, they agreed to break the engagement. They're not happy about it, and there will be consequences, but they've given us their reluctant support." Andrea sat back, processing what Raj had just told her. She could see the relief in his eyes, but also the weight of the decision he'd made. "Raj, that's a lot. I can't imagine what you must have gone through." Raj nodded, his expression somber. "It was difficult, but it was necessary. I couldn't go through with the marriage knowing that my heart wasn't in it. And I couldn't keep leading you on, knowing that I was engaged to someone else. You deserve better than that, Andrea." Andrea's heart ached at his words, torn between relief that he had ended the engagement and fear of what lay ahead. "So, what happens now?" Raj looked at her with a mixture of hope and vulnerability. "Now, I'm free to be with you, if that's what you want. But I know this isn't easy. There's a lot at stake, and I don't want to pressure you into anything. I just wanted to be honest with you, to let you know where I stand." Andrea was silent for a moment, her mind racing. She appreciated Raj's honesty, but the reality of their situation was still overwhelming. There were so many unknowns, so many potential challenges that they would have to face together. Susie, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. "Raj, I appreciate that you've come clean with Andrea, and that you've made this decision. But you have to understand how much this affects her. She's not just someone you can sweep off her feet and take into your world. She has her own life, her own concerns, and this is a lot for anyone to handle." Raj nodded, his expression serious. "I understand, Susie. And I don't expect Andrea to make any decisions right away. I just wanted her to know that I'm committed to making this work, if she's willing to give us a chance." Andrea looked at Raj, feeling a mix of emotions: love, fear, hope, and doubt. "Raj, I care about you. I really do. But this is all happening so fast, and it's so much to take in. I need time to think, to figure out what I really want. I don't want to rush into something that could end up hurting both of us." Raj's gaze softened, and he reached out to gently take her hand. "Take all the time you need, Andrea. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it." Andrea squeezed his hand, feeling a small measure of comfort in his words. But the uncertainty still lingered, heavy and unresolved. As the evening wore on, the tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a more subdued and reflective atmosphere. Andrea, Susie, and Raj sat quietly for a while, the weight of the conversation settling in. The snacks on the table remained mostly untouched, a testament to the gravity of the situation. Raj leaned back in his chair, his eyes still on Andrea. He could see the conflict in her expression, the way she was torn between her feelings for him and the daunting reality of their situation. He wanted to say something to reassure her, but he knew that the only thing that would truly help was giving her the space she needed to process everything. Susie broke the silence, her tone gentle but firm. "Raj, I think it's important that you understand something. Andrea is in love with you, but she's also scared. Scared of what this might mean for her, for you, for everyone involved. She's been thrust into a situation that's completely out of her control, and that's a lot to handle." Raj nodded, his expression serious. "I understand, Susie. And I don't want to put any more pressure on Andrea. I just wanted her to know that I'm committed to making this work, and that I'm here for her, no matter what she decides." Andrea looked up, meeting Raj's gaze. "I appreciate that, Raj. I really do. But you have to understand that this isn't just about us. It's about your family, your responsibilities, your culture. I can't just ignore all of that." Raj's eyes softened, and he leaned forward, taking her hand in his again. "I know it's complicated, Andrea. But I've spoken to my family, and they've accepted my decision. It wasn't easy, and there are still challenges ahead, but I'm willing to face them if it means being with you." Andrea squeezed his hand, her heart aching with the weight of the decision she faced. "I just don't want to be the cause of more problems in your life, Raj. I don't want to be the reason you're torn between your family and your feelings." Raj shook his head, his voice filled with conviction. "You're not the cause of any problems, Andrea. If anything, you've helped me realize what's truly important. I don't want to live a life that's dictated by tradition and obligation if it means sacrificing my happiness and yours." Susie watched the exchange, her heart going out to her friend. She could see how much Raj cared for Andrea, and how much Andrea was struggling with her feelings. But she also knew that Andrea needed to make this decision for herself, without being swayed by Raj's words or actions. After a long pause, Andrea finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly. Raj, I need some time to think. This is a lot to process, and I don't want to make any decisions until I'm sure of what I want. Raj nodded, understanding the depth of her turmoil. Of course, Andrea. Take as much time as you need. I'm not going anywhere. Andrea offered him a small, grateful smile, but the uncertainty in her eyes remained. She wasn't sure how she would ever make sense of the situation, or if there was a way to move forward that wouldn't leave her heartbroken. As the evening drew to a close, Raj walked Andrea and Susie to the door. The drive back to the hotel was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Raj opened the car door for them, his expression tender. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. "I'm here whenever you're ready to talk." Andrea nodded, her emotions still in turmoil. "Thank you, Raj." With that, she and Susie made their way back to their room. As they entered, Susie turned to Andrea, concern etched on her face. "How are you feeling?" Andrea sighed, sinking onto the bed. "I don't know, Susie. I'm so confused. I love him, but I'm terrified of what that love could mean for both of us. Thanks for watching. See you again next time.